Welcome to this deep dive. We've got a really unique source today. It's an audio recording actually shared by one of you listening.
Yeah, it's definitely presenting a very specific viewpoint.
It is, and it dives into, well, quite an alternative narrative about reality, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It talks about these beings it calls reptilians, their supposed influence here on Earth, and, what the source suggests can be done.
Exactly. So our goal, like always in these deep dives, is to really get into this specific source. We'll unpack its claims.
hmm
Who does it say these reptilians are? How does it claim they affect us? And what path forward does it actually recommend?
And we're sticking strictly what's in this audio.
Strictly?
Think of it like we're just walking through this particular worldview presented in the recording.
Yeah.
It's got some pretty intense ideas.
It does. So let's jump right in. What's the core claim here? The absolute fundamental idea.
Okay, so the central concept in this audio is that there's this specific race of extraterrestrials are called reptilians.
Right.
And they are basically in control. They hold the power over this planet.
Control and power. Okay. And how does the source say they view humanity?
Well, according to this audio, they see us as lower density beings.
Lower density.
Yeah. And the source claims they treat humans almost like lab rats,
Yeah.
for experiments, or sometimes even just for entertainment.
Wow, lab rats. That's quite a perspective. And this control, it's not just Earth, according to the source.
No, that's right. The source sort of broadens the picture. It claims their influence goes beyond Earth to many other planets in our local star cluster.
Really? Other planets too?
Yeah, planets with beings described as fourth dimensional or three-dimensional, which, the source says includes us.
Okay, so if they're influencing multiple planets, why the focus on humans? What makes us targets, according to this source?
It really zeroes in on what it calls unique human traits.
Like what?
The source specifically points to our DNA and our genetic lineage. That's one thing. And also, crucially, our ability for manifestation through thought,
Manifestation through thought.
which the audio claims the reptilians themselves can't do.
Ah, okay. So is that the connection then? If they can't do it, the source is saying they manipulate us because we can.
That seems to be the logic presented, yeah. The source claims they manipulate our energy, our chakras, even our DNA.
And why? Just for control.
Well, control is part of it, according to the audio, but it's also apparently to see and learn from us because of that manifestation ability we supposedly have.
Right, okay. Control and learning. So how is this control actually maintained? What's the mechanism the source describes? What are they, feeding on?
Okay, the source is very specific about this. It says these reptilians feed off low vibrational energy.
Low vibrational energy. Can you break that down? What does the source mean by that?
He gives clear examples. Things like fear, anger, despair, hatred, those kinds of emotions.
Okay.
And the source actually uses a specific term for this energy. It calls it loosh.
Loosh? Loosh. Huh. And the source makes a pretty big claim about how this loosh is generated, right?
A very big claim. It suggests that everything in our world is put in place specifically to create this low vibrational energy.
Everything. Like what?
It directly calls out mainstream media, mainstream everything. Say it's all based around these particular low vibrational emotions.
Because humans are emotional beings, and the source suggests that's being used against us to generate this feed source.
That's exactly the link the source makes. It argues they achieve this by enticing these types of feelings and thoughts in us that are low vibrational, because that's what they need, supposedly.
So if someone thinks they might be under this kind of influence, what signs or symptoms does the source point to? How would you know?
The audio lists several things, both physical and emotional.
Okay.
Things like unexplained fatigue and tiredness,
Yeah.
or having thoughts and emotions that just don't feel like them, feeling strange.
Intrusive thoughts, maybe.
Yeah, receiving negative thoughts and ideation. That's the phrase used.
And this can happen anytime.
According to the source, yes. It mentions it happening in dreams, during astral traveling, or just while you're awake during the day.
And the source directly connects these feelings to the reptilians.
Yes, very directly. It claims that often a reptilian is actively playing on their feelings and their thoughts. It suggests they impact the sympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
Our fight or flight response,
Right.
leading to states like despair, fear, anxiety, depression. The source claims these can be a direct result of that influence.
That's a strong connection, and the source seems to think this is widespread.
Extremely widespread, according to the audio. It makes a very bold statement, actually. It claims every person that comes to the speaker for energy treatment
Yes.
will have a reptilian component, every single
A
one.
reptilian component. That sounds more than just energetic influence. Is the source talking about something physical?
It seems to be yes. It introduces this idea of reptilian hybrid components.
Okay, what are those according to the source?
The claim is that these are instances where reptilians have put genetic material of their own into you.
Wow. Genetic material. And where would these components supposedly be found?
The audio says they're often found in areas where the body won't repair, won't regenerate itself.
Any examples?
It gives one, yeah. A client who had eczema. The source claims they found components of rectiline hybrid in that specific area and that it needed to be cleared energetically.
So the idea is this alleged genetic stuff interferes with healing.
That seems to be the implication of the source, yes. And it brings in another element, too, a connection to Orion.
Orion, the constellation.
Yes, the source identifies Orion as the alleged origin of these reptilians, including a type it calls Draco.
Okay. And the connection.
Apparently, parts of a person's body, or even their whole being, can be connected and plugged into Orion.
Plugged in. For what purpose, according to the source anyway?
The source claims the purpose is straightforward, to siphon the energy from you.
Siphon energy.
And by doing that, the goal is supposedly to keep you at a lower vibrational health or level of being, which the source links to preventing something it calls ascension.
Ascension. We'll come back to that. But first, there's this other really abstract idea in the source, maybe one of the most unsettling about time itself.
Yes, that's a really fascinating claim in the audio. It says, time is a construct that's been put into place to enslave humanity from the reptilians.
Enslave us using time. How does the source explain that? It used an example, right?
It did, a very relatable one. It compares how we feel time. Like when you're in love or things are just flowing perfectly. Time seems to just fly or maybe even doesn't exist in that moment.
Right, we've all felt that.
But then contrast that with doing something you really don't enjoy. A tedious job, a chore. Time just seems to take forever. The clock watching.
Yeah, definitely. The source mentioned Einstein too, didn't it? Briefly.
It did, yeah, just a quick mention in relation to time not being fixed.
And how does this tie back to the reptilians and energy, according to the source?
It links it directly. The claim is when you manage to remove all the low vibrational energy that the reptilians are putting in place, you're effectively no longer under the constraint of time.
So time feels different or doesn't constrain you.
Something like that. But conversely, when you are in that low vibrational state, the source argues that time does act as a measure put in place to enslave us, controlling us through schedules, deadlines, when we need to go to work, when do we need to do this.
Okay, so that paints a picture of the problem, according to this one source. Reptilian control, low vibrations, these components, Orion connections, time as a cage. What's the solution offered? How do you break free?
The path forward presented in the audio centers on this concept of the ascension process.
Ascension. What does the source say about that?
It suggests humanity is collectively going through this process, moving out of 4D, which is supposedly where we are now, and going higher into 5D and 7D, higher dimensions or densities.
And how does ascending help with the reptilian issue based on this source?
The assertion is that as we become a more high-density being, the reptilians simply won't be able to touch us anymore.
Why not?
Because the source claims at these higher densities, we will naturally radiate with just pure love all the time. Low vibrations just won't be prevalent.
So they lose their food source or their ability to connect.
That seems to be the idea. The low vibrations they feed on and use for control just aren't compatible with that higher state of being. They're forced out, supposedly.
So then, the key actions the source recommends to help with this ascension and breaking free, it sounds like it comes down to love.
Very much so. The source highlights service to others and, centrally, unconditional love as the main ways to achieve this shift.
Unconditional love.
Yes.
Yes.
It frames this as the core method to break through and break out of this control. The audio specifically mentions not judging anybody, just loving them for who they are. That's presented as key.
And reaching that higher state, that loving state, also impacts the time construct.
Exactly. The source connects those dots. It claims that removing the low vibrations doesn't just break the general control, but it specifically frees you from that alleged constraint of time put in place by the reptilians.
The source also mentioned awareness being important, didn't it?
It did. That's presented as a crucial first step. Having awareness of what's causing this low vibration.
And it pointed fingers again.
Yes, specifically mentioning things like the mainstream media and the news as sources of low vibration to be aware of. Recognizing those influences is framed as vital for starting to break free.
Stepping back a bit, the source is pretty definitive about how common these reptilians are supposed to be.
Oh, extremely definitive. The audio states very clearly that reptilians are part of our existence being here on Earth. It says they are everywhere, and flat out calls them the holders or the controllers of humanity.
It doesn't pull any punches. And the speaker in the audio backed this up with their own experience.
Yes, they shared that personal detail, saying, I remember removing reptilians from clients every day,
Yeah.
and repeated that claim we mentioned earlier, that every single client they see for energy work has a reptilian component.
So, given that perspective that they're everywhere and affecting everyone, what does the source tell you, the listener, to actually do about it? Is there a specific action recommended?
There is a very direct call to action. The source advises booking an appointment for energy treatment and get energy healing.
With the speaker in the audio.
It mentions the name Chris and the place Truly Holistic Care, yes.
Huh.
And the explicit purpose of this treatment is to remove those reptilians and all connections to reptilians.
And what does the source claim are the benefits of doing this specific energy work?
It lists quite a few hoped-for outcomes, helping you break free from the reptilians, for one.
Okay.
Also assisting with increased spirituality and also consciousness, improving your connection with your higher self with true source.
Removing them from your source self.
That's the term used, yes. Removing reptilians from your source self. The idea is this allows you to be more in control and consciousness.
And helps with personal growth.
Yes, to develop your own potential, specifically within your ascension process in your spirituality journey. That's the claimed benefit.
Was there that other specific example, too? About a client feeling something concrete after a session?
Yes, the source mentioned a client who apparently felt a distinct vibration and gained clarity. This was after an alleged disconnection from Orion that was supposedly affecting their auditory system. It was presented as proof of the energetic shift.
Okay.
So if we boil it all down, the unique narrative in this single audio source describes this race of reptilians controlling humanity. They supposedly feed on low energy, which they generate through our median systems.
Right.
They might place physical hybrid components in people, connect them energetically to places like Orion to siphon energy, and even create time itself to enslave us.
That's the problem side.
And the solution side, according to this source, is humanity's ascension, driven by unconditional love, service to others, and facilitated practically by getting specific energy healing to remove these reptilian ties and components.
Which raises your vibration and breaks you free from their control, including time.
That's the picture painted in this specific piece of audio.
It's definitely a very detailed and distinct perspective from this material that one of you shared. So thank you for joining us as we explored the world described just within this one source today in this deep dive.
Yeah, it's always interesting to unpack these different narratives that are out there.
Absolutely. And just as we wrap up this exploration of one source's take on, external control versus internal power, here's maybe a final thought to leave you with. If, as this particular source suggests, the key to breaking free from external influences, whatever they might be, lies in cultivating our own internal state, focusing on our capacity for love, managing our own emotional vibration, well, what might that imply about the profound power that could already reside within each of us? A power perhaps waiting to be fully recognized and utilized, regardless of what external forces might or might not actually be at play.